Hello there, my name's Guildmaster Dan, and welcome to the Fourth Wall. Tonight, we find ourselves in my basement for Halloween, because tonight, we're talking about how to make your game scary. Enjoy. Welcome back. Tonight, I mentioned that we're talking about how to make your game scary. In that regard, I do have a few bits of advice. The first of which is to make your gaming environment one where it is alright to be scared. One where your players can allow themselves to be scared. Because you see, even if you're running a horror game, such as Call of Cthulhu or a Ravenloft game, even though you're running that in a horrible setting and there are frightening things about, and even if you describe things in such a terrifying way, your players might not be scared. You see, if they are in a well-lit room with lots of distractions, then they can't allow themselves to get into the right frame of mind. As such, I would recommend a few tiny things that you can do to make your gaming environment more accommodating to being scared. Some suggestions I might have would be to first make your room dark. Darkness can go a long way to get your players in the right mindset. Make it dark, or at least as dim as you can. If you do make the room dark, you still need light to be able to see your dice and your character sheet. So perhaps a black light, or some candles. I know in my personal SCP game, we use darkness and candles to set the mood. Next, some music typically helps. Not normal music. You don't want epic fantasy music or metal or your normal music you might play. Rather, you want frightening music. Music that's more background than is actual music. For example, great music that works for my game is from the soundtrack to the Silent Hill games. The composer for those games does a fantastic job, not making so much as songs, but making background ambience that's just frightening. Other good sources, the American McGee's Alice games have wonderful ambionic noise, and if you can generally use you can use horror music themes. There's CDs out there for this very purpose. Typically, you'll find them in meant for use with haunted houses, but they work great with nice horror. Now, once you've successfully set the mood for your horror session, the next thing you can do is your knowledge of your players. Learn what your players are afraid of and use it against them. Now, I don't mean take a phobia and then be a dick about it. No, I mean, sure, you can learn a phobia or your friend's general fears, but what you do with those is you do insert them into the game, but not so much as to make your friends, well, angry at you. You insert them into the game in such a way as to make your friends uncomfortable. Because naturally, their character might not be scared of the same things. After all, many of us fulfill our fantasies of being a much braver and more adventurous soul with our characters. And if, let's say, I was scared of spiders, if I was deathly frightened of them, but my character wasn't, then, you know, if you throw large spiders at me over and over again, I'm just going to get angry at you and leave. But, if in your descriptions of the places we go, there are spiders, or if we fight things that have features that are reminiscent of spiders, such as long spindly legs, or 8 eyes shining in the dark, then those are just enough detail to make the player feel uncomfortable. And when they are uncomfortable and in an appropriate setting, they feel it is more appropriate to roleplay fright for their character. Now, the next bit I have to recommend is remember squick or gore, grossness, things that would otherwise make you feel disgusted is not scary. Yes, it has elements that might lend to fear, but in and of itself is not scary, and when used to its extreme, will generally come across as juvenile or trying too hard. Rather, remember that squick is not scary, but mystery is. Even something as mundane as a spider or a rat, when described correctly, with enough information kept away from your players, will sound far more frightening. Remember, describe things in such a way that it is vague. Let your players fill in the frightening details. That, trust me, their imaginations will do far more than yours ever would. Use horrifying language, yes, but throw in some mystery. If I told my players that a ghoul rose from a coffin to attack them, such would not be frightening because they are aware of what a ghoul is, and it's not as scary. But if I were to describe it as they come upon a dusty and crack-filled box in the cemetery, before they can even approach it, it swings open with a loud bang, and out of it, curled fingers with rigor mortis and dust crawls out of the box, and standing up where it once was is a skeletal form wrapped in dead skin and cobwebs. Seeing your inability to move, it lunges at you. Much scarier than simply saying a ghoul popped out at you from a coffin. Use mystery to your advantage. Which leads me to my next bit of advice. Keep secrets. But what sort of secrets should you keep? Mainly two. Keep secrets from your players, and keep secrets between your players. The secrets that you keep from your players is similar to what we just talked about. Keep things vague and nebulous for your players so that you can let their minds fill in the terrifying details that otherwise you would never be able to think of. But second, keep secrets between your players. Use notes and pulling them aside to give each player unique knowledge. Give them secrets, because when they are brought back, this tells everyone that that character knows something that they don't. And when multiple people know different things, number one, the characters start acting out of knowledge that the other characters don't know. When one character jumps startled at something and the others have no idea what startled them, it becomes a more genuine feeling. Also, if they have secrets amongst each other in a stressful situation, paranoia starts to set in. Especially if you're running something with, say, monsters that can take on the shape of those that you know and love. And finally, there is one last bit of advice I have for making your game scary. Be sure that on top of all of the others that I've mentioned, to let your players laugh. Seriously, it's actually really important that during your game you let your players laugh, and still get to joke around and stuff. Because even though you're trying really hard to set this really spooky mood, you have to have that opposite extreme for them to be able to get all that scary. Kind of like before when I mentioned that if you just throw spiders at that person who's scared of spiders over and over again, they're just going to get fed up and leave. In this case, if you do nothing but the creepy stuff, they're going to get bored, and that's going to work against you trying to scare them. So be sure to still let them joke around and get their normal amusements in. That way they actually have some contrast to the actually spooky things going on in your game. But obviously there's also lots of other ways that people use in games to like scare their players and make their game scary. In fact, there is a great article on this topic, or rather an essay, that really inspires most of the things that I do to scare my players in my horror game. So I'll make sure to leave a link for that in my comments. Be sure to give it a read over. It's really good stuff. Um, Also, if there's anything that I left out or that you would recommend, or if you disagreed with anything I had to say, please feel free to leave a comment below. Um, and please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.